American Development Bank in 2019. In fact, should the proposed gas-fired power generation plant be faced with a supply challenge, K&M said it will require burning significantly more expensive backup fuel, which would substantially increase the cost of electricity generation to GPL. With regards to the level of risk, it was noted that the gas plant, the country, would be utilizing up to 77% of generated.
This is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Good morning and welcome to this morning's newscast on Kaieteur Radio. Kevin Smith here. Let's get to the news in detail. Guyana runs the risk of being overly reliant on the proposed gas-to-energy initiative, which is being pursued by the PPPC administration in cohorts with the Stabroek Block operator ESSO for its electricity supply. This is according to K&M Advisors, an international consultancy group that was commissioned to conduct a study on this matter by the Inter-American Development Bank in 2019. In fact, should the proposed gas-fired power generation plant be faced with a supply challenge, K&M said it will require burning significantly more expensive backup fuel, which would substantially increase the cost of electricity generation to GPL. With regards to the level of risk, it was noted that the gas plant, the country, would be utilizing up to 77% of generated electricity from natural gas. And in other news, on June 22nd, the EPA issued a notice alerting the public that the 2020 guidelines for reviewing and conducting environmental impact assessments were repealed, and that in the interim, its assessment guidelines that date back to 2000 would apply. The EPA had withdrawn its revised 2020 assessment guidelines a mere 6 days before it had mandated ESSO to conduct an assessment for its proposed $900 million gas-to-energy project. The EPA stated the new set of assessment guidelines were retracted pending more extensive consultation to adequately reflect the contributions from diverse stakeholders through wider public participation. Guyanese environmentalist Simone Mangal questioned the logic behind the EPA's decision to withdraw a set of guidelines. She noted that the agency removed the 2020 guidelines from its website rather than leaving them up in accordance with transparency's best practice. It is in this regard that Kaieteur News took the challenge of finding the deleted guidelines. These guidelines will be available for the public eye from today on the Kaieteur News website. And moving on July 22nd, various environmental and energy ministers convened in Italy to participate in the recently held G20 summit, the first for this year. The G20 group represents an intergovernmental forum comprising 19 of the world's most powerful countries and the European Union. It works to address major issues related to the global economy, such as international financial stability, climate change mitigation, and sustainable development. In spite of its established intentions, the first day of the summit made a little progress, especially as it relates to reaching climate goals, with a cluster of countries resisting firm commitments. This was noted by internationally renowned news agency The Guardian. While the countries debated over climate change action, thousands of flag-waving martyrs protested against what they said was a lack of action on addressing global warming. And now let's tell you, U.S. overseas territory Puerto Rico scored a win against U.S. oil major Exxon Mobil Corporation following a decade-long battle in which the island's administration had alleged that the company contaminated the island's groundwater and environment through its operations there. The U.S. District Court for Puerto Rico has since approved a $25 million settlement in Puerto Rico's favor as part of a lawsuit filed more than a decade ago against Exxon Mobil Corp. and ESSO Standard Oil Company, claiming that the companies contaminated the island's groundwater. The Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, through the Environmental Quality Board, had filed a complaint against Exxon Mobil twice, in June of 2007 and in September of 2013, which were moved to the U.S. District Court for Puerto Rico. And now let's tell you, on Thursday, the Ministry of Agriculture signed $428 million worth in contracts to boost the sector's performance. Of that amount, $84 million will be used for the procurement of a pontoon and 2 hydraulic excavators, which will operate in the Pomeroon River in Region 2. This will allow the National Drainage and Irrigation Authority to execute critical drainage works, the ministry stated. It is understood that this project will be completed by VR Construction Inc. and Guytrack. Minister of Agriculture Zulfikar Mustafa was keen to note that the foregoing is representative of the government fulfilling its commitment to the people of Pomeroon. And now let's tell you, following a video that was published on social media platforms showing a man allegedly chopping a puppy, animal rights activists yesterday protested in front of the Lenora police station on the west coast of Demerara. The protest was arranged by Tales of Hope Guyana, an agency that promotes animal health care awareness, provides rescue aids and housing to protect animals, and helps prevent animal cruelty. Since the video surfaced, there has been no statement from police in relation to the incident. However, we understand that Ranks visited the home of the suspect on 2 occasions, but he was not alone. He was not at home, rather. Moreover, the Animal Welfare Act Section 5C stipulates that an owner who inflicts pain, suffering, or injury upon an animal during training commits an offense and is liable to, on summary conviction, to a fine of $50,000 along with 3 months imprisonment. And to wrap things up this morning, let's tell you that the Ministry of Health yesterday reported that 14 persons who recently were admitted to the ICU. That should be 14 persons were recently admitted to the COVID-19 ICU. Although no new deaths have been reported, the ministry recorded 43 new COVID-19 infections within the last 24 hours, bringing the total number of confirmed cases to 21,850. Out of the number of confirmed cases, 11,190 persons are women, while 10,660 are men. 101 persons are in institutional isolation, 851 in home isolation, and 1 person in institutional quarantine. To date, a total of 20,366 persons have recovered after being infected with the virus.